Do you ever find yourself struggling to keep up with conversations in English? Maybe you get nervous, forget the words you want to say, or feel lost in the middle of a chat. Well, you're not alone. It happens to everyone at some point, but the good news is, it doesn't have to be that way. In today's episode of Clear English Podcast, we're going to talk about some simple tips and tricks to make English conversations easier, less stressful, and more enjoyable. Whether you're a beginner or you've been speaking for a while, these tips will help you feel more confident in your conversations. Let's dive right in. We've all been there. You're in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly, you can't find the right words, or you're trying to understand someone speaking too quickly. It can be frustrating, right? But I'm here to tell you that English conversations don't have to be so hard. In today's episode, I'll show you how to make them easier and more enjoyable. You'll learn simple strategies to feel more comfortable and confident when speaking, and you'll see how little changes can make a big difference in your ability to understand and respond. So, let's get started and make your English conversations a lot smoother. I remember when I first started speaking English in real-life situations, and let me tell you, it was tough. I would get so nervous that I'd forget simple words, stumble over my sentences, and sometimes even give up mid-conversation. I'd find myself thinking, why is this so hard? But over time, I learned a few easy tricks that made those conversations flow much more smoothly. Slowly, I began to feel more confident, and even the moments of awkwardness didn't seem so bad anymore. One of the biggest things that really helped me was not stressing out over making mistakes. In the beginning, I used to worry so much about saying something wrong, but I realized that making mistakes is part of learning. The more relaxed I became, the easier it was to have natural conversations. And honestly, the people I was talking to weren't focused on my mistakes, they were focused on the conversation itself. Another key strategy was to actively listen and not rush myself. Instead of thinking ahead about what I was going to say next, I started focusing on understanding what the other person was saying, which made it easier to respond naturally. Over time, I learned that English conversations don't have to be perfect, they just need to be real and engaging. Today, I want to share these strategies with you so that you can feel just as comfortable having English conversations as I do now. In today's episode, we're going to talk about some simple ways to make your English conversations easier. Whether you're just starting out or you've been learning for a while, these tips will help you feel more confident and comfortable when speaking English. From building confidence to using the right phrases, I'm going to give you some strategies that will make English conversations feel a lot less stressful. These easy-to-follow tips can help you connect with others and make your English speaking experience much more enjoyable. So let's dive right in and see how you can start having smoother, more relaxed conversations. The first step to having easier conversations in English is building your confidence. It's totally normal to feel nervous or anxious when speaking a new language, especially when you're unsure of the right words or grammar. But here's the thing, confidence is a skill that you can improve with practice. The more you speak, the more comfortable and confident you'll become. So, let's explore how you can start building your confidence today. One of the best ways to build confidence is to start small. You don't need to have a long conversation right away. Begin with simple sentences or small exchanges in English, such as greeting someone or ordering food at a restaurant. Even these small interactions are valuable because they give you a sense of accomplishment and help you get used to speaking in English. Remember, confidence comes with regular practice. Try to practice English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. You can practice by reading aloud, listening to English podcasts, or repeating sentences you hear. As you continue practicing, you'll start to feel more comfortable using English in conversations. One of the biggest barriers to building confidence is the fear of making mistakes. But let me tell you, making mistakes is not only okay, it's actually part of the learning process. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. So, don't be afraid to speak, even if you're not sure about the words or grammar. Native speakers will usually appreciate the effort, and they'll likely understand that you're still learning. When I first started speaking English in real-life situations, I made lots of mistakes. I would forget words, mispronounce things, and sometimes even mix up tenses. But over time, I learned to let go of that fear. Now, I embrace mistakes as a way to learn and improve. So, remember, every mistake is an opportunity for growth. Building confidence in any skill requires positive self-talk. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, remind yourself of what went right. Celebrate the moments when you successfully communicate, even if it's just a small win. The more you focus on your successes, the more you'll feel motivated to continue practicing. For example, instead of thinking, "I made so many mistakes," try thinking, "I was able to communicate my idea in English, and that's a huge step forward." This kind of positive reinforcement will boost your confidence and keep you going. It's also important to surround yourself with people who encourage you. If you can, find language exchange partners or join groups where people are also learning English. These environments are perfect for practicing and building confidence because everyone is there to support each other. Plus, being around other learners means you'll feel more comfortable making mistakes and asking questions. If you don't have access to people around you who can help, there are plenty of online communities where learners support each other. Whether it's on social media or language learning apps, you can find people who are on the same journey as you, which can make a big difference in your confidence. Another great way to build your confidence is to set small, achievable goals. For example, you might set a goal to have a 5-minute conversation in English every week. By starting with something small and realistic, you'll feel proud when you reach that goal. Then, as your confidence grows, you can set bigger goals, like having longer conversations or speaking with a native English speaker. The key is to take small steps that are within your reach. Don't overwhelm yourself by thinking you need to be perfect right away. Every conversation, no matter how short, is progress. When speaking a new language, silence can feel uncomfortable, but it's completely normal. Sometimes, you might need a few seconds to think of the right word or phrase, and that's okay. Don't feel pressured to speak immediately. Taking your time shows that you're thinking carefully about what you want to say. I used to rush through sentences when I felt unsure, but I soon realized that it's better to pause for a moment and think. This gave me time to choose the right words, and it helped me feel more confident in my speech. Remember, it's okay to take your time. Another excellent way to build your confidence is by using audio and video tools. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and HelloTalk offer listening and speaking exercises that can help you build confidence in a controlled environment. You can listen to conversations, repeat sentences, and even record yourself speaking. This allows you to assess your own progress and identify areas where you might need more practice. For instance, I used to record myself speaking and then play it back. Listening to myself helped me notice areas where I could improve, like pronunciation or fluency. And over time, I felt more confident because I could hear my own improvement. Lastly, remember that building confidence takes time. It's important to be patient with yourself and not compare your progress to others. Every learner has their own pace, and that's perfectly fine. The most important thing is that you keep practicing and stay consistent. Over time, your confidence will grow, and so will your ability to have smooth, natural conversations in English. To summarize, building confidence is about practicing regularly, embracing mistakes, using positive self-talk, setting achievable goals, and surrounding yourself with supportive people. The more you practice, the more your confidence will grow, and soon, you'll find that English conversations feel much easier and more enjoyable. Building confidence is just the first step in making your English conversations easier. Once you start to feel more comfortable, you can move on to learning strategies that will help you speak more fluently and understand others better. Keep practicing, stay positive, and remember that every conversation is an opportunity to improve. When you're starting a conversation, using simple phrases is a great way to break the ice and ease into the conversation. It helps you feel more comfortable and reduces the pressure of trying to speak perfectly. Often, when we're learning a new language, we think we need to use complex vocabulary and grammar to impress others. But the truth is, keeping things simple is the best way to get started. Starting with phrases that are easy to remember can make a huge difference in how you approach conversations. These phrases can serve as conversation starters, helping you engage with others without feeling stressed. They don't require you to know a lot of vocabulary, and they're something everyone can relate to. When meeting someone for the first time or just starting a conversation with someone, friendly and casual questions can open up a natural flow of dialogue. For example, simple phrases like, "How's it going?" or "What have you been up to?" are excellent for starting a conversation. They are informal and sound natural, which helps you feel more relaxed. These are common phrases in daily English, and you'll hear them all the time. Don't worry if you can't think of a more complicated question. You can even use basic ones like, "How are you?" or "What's new with you?" These are simple but effective questions that give the other person a chance to speak, making the conversation easier for both sides. Once you ask these simple questions, the conversation will start to flow naturally. Once the conversation begins, you'll also want to practice responding simply. You don't have to give long or complicated answers right away. In fact, short and direct answers are often more effective, especially when you're just starting out. For example, if someone asks, "How are you?" you can simply respond with, "I'm good, thanks." Or, "I'm doing great, how about you?" These answers don't require complicated words, but they still keep the conversation going. If you want to add a little more detail without overthinking it, you can say things like, "I've been really busy lately," or, "I had a great weekend." These types of answers give the other person something to respond to, keeping the conversation going smoothly. Simple responses will also help you focus on your fluency, so you're not stressing about using perfect grammar. Think about the kinds of phrases you already use in your own language. Chances are, there are simple phrases you can translate into English that will help you communicate effectively. For example, "What's up?" or "How's everything?" are both short and easy to remember. These phrases are commonly used in daily conversations, so using them will help you feel more natural when speaking English. Another great way to keep the conversation simple is by using filler phrases. Words like, "well, you know," or "I mean," help fill pauses and give you time to think about what you want to say next. These phrases are completely normal in everyday speech and can help you sound more fluent, even if you're still learning the language. One of the biggest things that hold learners back in conversations is the fear of making grammatical mistakes. But the truth is, when you're starting a conversation, people care more about what you're saying than about perfect grammar. Focus on being clear and simple. If you use the wrong verb tense or mix up a word, don't stress. Most of the time, people will still understand you, especially if you're using simple phrases and expressions. For example, instead of worrying about whether you should use, "I have been," or "I did," just say what you want to say in a way that's comfortable for you. If you're talking about what you did last weekend, you could say, "I went to the park," or "I had a great time at the park." The grammar doesn't have to be perfect as long as you're able to communicate your message clearly. Another good way to make conversations easier is by learning common responses for everyday situations. For instance, if someone asks you if you want a drink, you can respond with simple phrases like, "Yes, please," or "No, thank you." If someone compliments you, a simple, "Thank you," or "That's kind of you," works well. These responses are quick to remember and will make your conversation smoother. By having these basic responses prepared, you won't have to think as hard when you're in the middle of a conversation. You'll have a few go-to phrases that are easy to say, which will help reduce any nervousness you might feel. If you find yourself stuck and not sure of what to say next, don't be afraid to rely on body language. Smiling, nodding, and using hand gestures are all great ways to show you're engaged in the conversation. You can use simple phrases along with body language to keep the conversation going. For example, if someone asks if you like a certain movie, you can say, "I really enjoyed it," and use hand gestures to show your enthusiasm. Even when you're not sure about the words, your body language will communicate a lot about your feelings and engagement. This can help you maintain a comfortable atmosphere in the conversation, especially when you're just starting out. The more you practice using simple phrases, the easier it will become to have conversations in English. You'll begin to feel more confident and comfortable speaking without having to think too hard about the words. It's important to keep reminding yourself that starting with simple phrases is completely okay and normal when learning a new language. So, the next time you're about to start a conversation in English, don't stress about using complicated words or sentences. Start with a simple greeting or question, and let the conversation flow naturally. As you practice more and more, you'll find that your vocabulary expands and you'll start using more complex phrases without even thinking about it. To summarize, starting with simple phrases is a great way to break the ice and build your confidence in speaking English. Use friendly questions like, "How's it going?" And respond with clear, simple answers. By focusing on what you can say rather than stressing over grammar, you'll find that your conversations become more comfortable and enjoyable over time. Keep practicing, and soon, you'll find yourself having longer and more fluid conversations in English. Active listening is one of the most important skills in any conversation, especially when you're learning English. It means really focusing on what the other person is saying, rather than just waiting for your turn to speak. Active listening not only makes conversations flow more smoothly, but it also helps you learn new vocabulary and expressions naturally. When you listen carefully, you're picking up on the way people actually use language, including their tone, the words they choose, and the rhythm of their speech. This helps you understand how to use new words and phrases in your own conversations. Active listening is about responding thoughtfully to the other person's words. For example, if someone says, "I love reading books," don't just nod and move on. Instead, show interest by asking a follow-up question like, "Oh, what kinds of books do you like?" This keeps the conversation going, and it gives you a chance to practice more English, especially if the other person shares some new vocabulary with you. By showing that you're genuinely interested in what they're saying, you'll make the conversation feel more natural, and it will help build your confidence as you practice listening and speaking. In fact, by focusing on their words, you can start picking up on new phrases that you might want to use yourself. For instance, if someone says, "I'm really into science fiction novels," you can respond by saying, "That sounds interesting. I've never really read science fiction before." This not only shows that you were paying attention, but it also gives you an opportunity to practice using phrases like, "I'm really into," or, "I've never really." A big part of active listening is asking questions to keep the conversation flowing. If someone shares something with you, don't be afraid to ask more questions about it. This doesn't only help the conversation keep going, but it also gives you a chance to practice using new words in context. For example, if someone says, "I went hiking last weekend," you could ask, "Oh, where did you go hiking?" Or, "Was it difficult?" This type of interaction keeps the conversation lively and gives you opportunities to learn more about the person, while also helping you practice your English. When you ask thoughtful questions, it shows the other person that you care about what they're saying. It also encourages them to share more, which can help you practice listening even more. Plus, the more you engage in these types of exchanges, the better you'll become at understanding and responding in English. Another key aspect of active listening is focusing on the key words and phrases in what the other person is saying. You don't need to understand every single word, just pick up on the most important parts of the sentence. For example, if someone says, "I'm planning a trip to Italy next summer," you can focus on the key words like, trip, Italy, and next summer. This will help you understand the main idea, even if you don't know every word in the sentence. Once you understand the key points, you can ask more specific questions based on what they've shared. In this case, you might ask, "That sounds exciting. What part of Italy are you visiting?" By focusing on the important parts of the sentence, you'll find that the conversation is much easier to follow, and you'll be able to respond more confidently. To really develop your active listening skills, try to listen to a variety of speakers. This will help you get used to different accents and speech patterns. When you listen to different people speak, you'll start to understand how they use language in different ways. For example, some people might speak quickly, while others may speak more slowly. Some may use a lot of slang, while others might use more formal language. The more variety you expose yourself to, the better you'll become at understanding English in real-life situations. This also helps you pick up on different vocabulary and expressions that you can use in your own conversations. The more you listen, the more words and phrases you'll hear, which will naturally expand your vocabulary. Whether you're listening to a podcast, watching a TV show, or having a conversation with a native speaker, practicing active listening in a variety of contexts will help you improve your skills. Active listening also requires patience. Sometimes, people speak quickly or use words you don't understand. But instead of getting frustrated, stay patient and try to focus on the parts of the conversation you can follow. You can always ask for clarification if you don't understand something. Phrases like, "Sorry, could you repeat that?" or "What do you mean by that?" are great ways to politely ask for more information without interrupting the flow of the conversation. It's important to remain open-minded when practicing active listening. Don't be afraid to ask questions if you don't understand something, and don't be discouraged if you don't catch everything the first time. The more you practice, the better you'll get at understanding different speakers, and the easier your conversations will become. By actively listening to others, you're also setting yourself up to learn new vocabulary and expressions. As you pay attention to what others are saying, you'll start to notice words and phrases that you might not have encountered before. This is a great way to learn how people really use English in everyday conversation. For example, you might hear someone say, "I'm swamped with work right now," and learn that swamped means being very busy. Or you might hear a phrase like, "I'm feeling under the weather," and learn that it's another way of saying someone isn't feeling well. These phrases aren't usually taught in textbooks, so paying attention to natural conversations helps you learn English as it's actually used. After hearing these phrases, try to incorporate them into your own conversations. The more you use new words and phrases, the more confident you'll become in using them correctly. Active listening helps you build your vocabulary and understand how native speakers use language in different contexts. Lastly, one of the best ways to practice active listening is by staying engaged with the conversation. Show that you're interested in what the other person is saying by nodding, making eye contact, and responding with phrases like, "That's interesting," or "Tell me more." These simple actions show that you're paying attention and that you care about what they're sharing. When you stay engaged, you also make it easier for the other person to feel comfortable talking with you. This creates a positive, flowing conversation where both speakers are actively participating, which makes it much easier to practice your English. In summary, active listening is key to improving your English conversation skills. By focusing on what the other person is saying, asking follow-up questions, and staying patient, you'll improve both your comprehension and your ability to respond thoughtfully. Plus, active listening is a great way to learn new words and expressions while building your confidence in real conversations. So, next time you're having a conversation in English, remember to listen actively, and the conversation will feel much easier. When you're speaking English, it's completely okay to use filler words and phrases. These words are useful for giving you a little extra time to gather your thoughts and make your speech sound more natural. Native speakers often use these words, so incorporating them into your own speech will help you sound more fluent and relaxed. Filler words include simple expressions like, you know, let me think, or, well. These words might not add much meaning to the sentence, but they help the conversation flow and make you sound less nervous when you're searching for the right words. Using filler words gives you time to think, without feeling rushed or pressured to speak instantly. Imagine you're in the middle of a conversation, and you need a moment to think about how to respond. Instead of just pausing awkwardly or getting stuck, you can use a word like, or, let me think, to fill that gap. This gives you a chance to organize your thoughts and come up with a good answer. For example, if someone asks you, "What did you do last weekend?" and you're not sure how to answer right away, you could say, let me think. I just relaxed at home. This not only gives you time to remember what you did but also makes you sound more natural in the conversation. Using filler words also helps you sound more like a native speaker. If you've ever listened to English speakers in casual conversations, you've probably heard them use these types of words all the time. They don't interrupt the flow of the conversation but help the speaker seem more relaxed and comfortable. By adding them to your speech, you'll sound more fluent and confident in real conversations. For instance, if someone asks, "Do you like watching movies?" and you're not sure how to answer, you could say, "Well, I enjoy movies, but I don't watch them very often." Here, "well" is a filler word that helps make the sentence feel more fluid and natural. Filler words are especially useful when you're thinking of how to phrase something, or when you're responding to a question and need a little extra time. They also help soften your answer and make it sound less rigid. For example, if you're trying to explain something complex or decide between a few options, you might say, "Let me think, I would probably choose option A." However, it's important to note that while filler words can help, using them too often can make you sound unsure or hesitant. It's best to use them occasionally to fill small pauses in speech, but try not to overuse them. The more you practice speaking, the more comfortable you'll feel with using filler words. When you're having conversations or practicing English with a friend, try to incorporate some filler words naturally. It's helpful to focus on the rhythm of the conversation and pay attention to how native speakers use them. Over time, they'll become a normal part of your speech. You can also try recording yourself speaking in English and listen for any places where you can add filler words. For example, if you're answering a question, and you feel a pause coming on, say something like, let me think, before continuing your answer. This will help make your speech sound more natural and fluent. Used to fill a pause when you're thinking or unsure of what to say. Example, I think I'll have the chicken for dinner. Used to check if the listener understands or to fill in space. Example, I love traveling, especially to places with lots of history. Let me think, used when you need time to think about a response. Example, let me think. I'm not sure, but I'll check it out later. Well, often used to start a sentence, or when you're about to explain something. Example, well, I haven't decided yet, but I'm leaning toward the red one. Like, often used when you're thinking about what to say or giving an example. Example, I enjoy outdoor activities, like hiking and cycling. Remember, the goal of using filler words is to make your conversations feel more natural and relaxed. Don't worry about speaking perfectly, native speakers don't do that. Use filler words when necessary, and don't stress if you pause during a conversation. It's completely okay to take your time to think. Everyone does it. In summary, filler words are a helpful tool to make your speech sound more natural and give you time to organize your thoughts. They help you stay relaxed during conversations, so don't be afraid to use them. Practice using these words in real conversations, and over time, you'll sound more confident and fluent when speaking English. Asking open-ended questions is one of the best ways to keep a conversation going smoothly. These questions encourage the other person to talk more, which gives you more opportunities to practice both your listening and speaking skills. Open-ended questions are those that can't be answered with a simple yes or no. Instead, they require the other person to provide more detailed answers, which helps make the conversation flow naturally and gives you a chance to engage more deeply. Open-ended questions give you more information to work with. Instead of just getting a quick response, you can learn more about the person's thoughts, opinions, and experiences, which helps you practice understanding different types of speech. For example, if you ask someone, "What did you do over the weekend?" instead of just, "Did you have a good weekend?" you're encouraging them to talk in more detail about their activities. This not only helps you get better at listening but also gives you more opportunities to respond, creating a natural back and forth in the conversation. By asking questions that require more than a simple yes or no, you're also giving yourself more time to think and practice speaking. You don't need to worry about coming up with complex answers right away because the other person is doing most of the talking. This makes conversations less stressful and helps you feel more comfortable. Here are some examples of open-ended questions you can use to start conversations or keep them going. Ask, "What did you do today?" This allows the person to share more details about their day and gives you a chance to practice understanding longer sentences. Ask, "What kind of movies do you enjoy watching?" This opens up the conversation for more specific information and allows you to practice vocabulary related to movies. Ask, "Where are you from?" This gives the person a chance to explain their background, which can lead to a more interesting and informative conversation. Ask, "What places have you traveled to?" This encourages the other person to tell you about their travel experiences and gives you an opportunity to learn new words related to travel. Ask, "What was the most fun part of your weekend?" This helps you understand what the person enjoyed and allows them to speak more freely about their experiences. When you ask open-ended questions, you're actively encouraging the other person to speak more. This helps you develop better listening skills because you're getting exposed to more words, phrases, and different ways of expressing ideas. You also have a chance to pick up on new vocabulary, idioms, and expressions that you can use in your own conversations. For example, if someone tells you about their weekend, you might hear them use phrases like, "I went hiking in the mountains," or, "I spent some time with family." These are great phrases you can add to your own vocabulary. By listening carefully and responding to these longer sentences, you'll get better at understanding different accents, speech patterns, and vocabulary used in real conversations. Not only do open-ended questions help you listen better, but they also give you a chance to practice speaking more naturally. For instance, when you ask someone about their hobbies, and they give you a detailed answer, you'll have to respond with a more thoughtful answer yourself, rather than just saying, yes, or, no. This will help you practice forming longer sentences and using more complex grammar structures, which will make your English sound more natural. Additionally, when you practice asking open-ended questions, you get better at speaking spontaneously. You don't need to worry about memorizing questions or answers because the conversation flows naturally, based on what the other person is saying. Here's an example of how open-ended questions can help keep a conversation going. What did you do over the weekend? Friend, I went to a park with my friends. We played soccer and had a picnic. It was a lot of fun. That sounds great. What's your favorite part about playing soccer? Friend, I really enjoy running around and scoring goals. It's exciting when we win. Nice. Have you been playing soccer for a long time? Friend, yeah, I've been playing since I was a kid. In this example, each of your questions encourages your friend to share more information, and you get the chance to practice both listening and responding. Your responses help keep the conversation flowing, and you get to learn more about your friend's interests while practicing English. Open-ended questions can be used in all kinds of situations, whether you're at a party, in a business meeting, or chatting with a friend. Here are some examples of how they might fit into different conversations. How do you know the host? What do you like to do for fun? Can you tell me about the project you're working on? What's your favorite part of your job? What brought you to this city? What kind of music do you like? These questions help create a more relaxed atmosphere and make it easier to have a natural, flowing conversation. The more you practice asking open-ended questions, the more comfortable you'll feel using them in conversations. So, next time you're speaking with someone in English, try to ask questions that encourage them to share more. This will not only help improve your listening skills but will also help you practice speaking in a more relaxed and confident way. In summary, open-ended questions are a great tool for making conversations easier. They help you learn new vocabulary, encourage the other person to talk more, and allow you to practice both listening and speaking in a relaxed way. So, start using them today, and watch how much easier and more enjoyable your conversations become. One of the most important things to remember when having an English conversation is that it's completely okay to ask for clarification if you don't understand something. In fact, it's often a sign of being engaged in the conversation and wanting to ensure you're on the same page. Many learners feel embarrassed to ask someone to repeat something or explain what they mean, but asking for clarification is a natural part of communication. It shows that you care about understanding the conversation and that you're actively participating. In any language, misunderstandings happen. Even native speakers ask for clarification when they don't catch something or don't understand the meaning of a word or phrase. Asking questions in these situations ensures that you're not missing important information and that you're fully engaged in the conversation. When you ask for clarification, it helps you avoid confusion and gives you the opportunity to learn something new. Plus, the other person will appreciate your effort to understand. Here are some simple ways to ask for clarification in a friendly and respectful way. This is a polite way to ask someone to repeat something. It's informal and works in almost any situation. If you didn't catch what the person said or if you weren't sure about a part of their sentence, simply ask them to repeat it. This is another gentle way of asking for clarification. It shows that you are actively listening and want to make sure you understand. If you don't understand a specific word or phrase, asking what it means is a great way to clear up confusion. People are usually happy to explain things and will appreciate that you're trying to learn. If someone uses a word or phrase that you don't understand, asking for an example can be helpful. It allows the person to show you how the word or phrase is used in a real context, which will make it easier to understand. If there's something specific you're unsure about, this phrase allows you to ask for a detailed explanation. For example, if someone uses a complicated expression, you could ask for clarification about that particular part. Asking for clarification isn't just about getting a better understanding of the conversation in the moment, it's also an excellent way to learn. Every time you ask for clarification, you're getting a new piece of information that will help you improve your listening skills and vocabulary. For instance, if someone repeats a word or gives you a new example, you'll remember that word for next time, and it will become part of your active vocabulary. Moreover, when people explain something to you, they might use simpler words or break things down in a way that makes it easier to understand. This is especially useful for learners because it helps you connect new concepts with your existing knowledge. Each time you ask for clarification, you're building a stronger understanding of the language. Here's an example of a conversation where asking for clarification helps. I heard you say you went to a new restaurant. What kind of food did they serve? Friend, it was a place that specializes in tapas. Sorry, what does tapas mean? Friend, oh, tapas are small Spanish dishes, usually served as appetizers. That sounds interesting. What kind of tapas did you try? In this example, asking for clarification helps you understand what your friend meant by tapas. By asking for an explanation, you not only learn a new word, but you also gain more details about the conversation that will help you participate more actively. Here's another example. How was your trip to Italy? Friend, it was amazing. We went to Florence, and the art was incredible. Sorry, could you say that again? What was incredible? Friend, the art in Florence. The paintings, sculptures, and museums were beautiful. That sounds amazing. I'd love to visit someday. Asking your friend to repeat the part about, the art was incredible, ensures that you understand the key point in the conversation. You could also ask for more details to keep the conversation going. It's important to remember that everyone, not just language learners, asks for clarification from time to time. Native speakers often ask others to repeat themselves, especially if the speaker is talking too fast or using unfamiliar vocabulary. There's no need to feel embarrassed when you don't understand something, it's all part of the learning process. In fact, the more comfortable you get with asking for clarification, the more confident you will feel. In conversations, depending on the context of the conversation, there are different ways to ask for clarification. Here are some situations where it's helpful to ask for clarification. If you're at work and you don't understand a part of a presentation or a colleague's instructions, you could say, "Could you clarify that point? I didn't quite understand what you meant by specific term." If you're chatting with a friend and they mention something unclear, you can ask, "What do you mean by that?" Or, "Sorry, can you explain that again?" If you're in a class and don't understand something the teacher said, you can ask, "I'm not sure I understand, could you explain that in a different way?" Always ask for clarification in a friendly and respectful manner. Phrases like, "Sorry to interrupt, but," or, "Excuse me, could you please repeat that?" help maintain a polite tone in the conversation. It's okay to ask for clarification, so there's no need to apologize excessively. A simple, "Sorry, could you say that again?" is enough. If you didn't hear something clearly or didn't understand a word, ask as soon as possible rather than pretending you understood. This prevents confusion later in the conversation. So, to summarize, here are some tips to make English conversations easier. Remember, practice makes perfect, and it's okay to make mistakes. Keep it casual and friendly to break the ice without feeling pressured. Focus on what the other person is saying and respond thoughtfully. Take your time with phrases like, or, "Let me think," to keep the conversation flowing. Encourage the other person to share more and keep the conversation going. It's completely fine to ask questions and ensure you understand what's being said. By following these steps, you can make your English conversations smoother and more enjoyable. Remember, it's all about practicing, staying relaxed, and enjoying the process of learning. Now that you have these tips, try them out in your next conversation. I'm sure you'll notice a difference. Don't forget to subscribe to Clear English Podcast for more tips on improving your English skills. And if you found today's episode helpful, leave a comment below and share your favorite tips for making conversations easier. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. Have you tried any of these tips before? Let me know in the comments. And remember to subscribe to Clear English Podcast for more helpful advice. Happy learning!